How Zambia's president became Africa's most powerful leader, Hichilema's global rise. What does it actually mean to be a powerful president in today's world? Is it nuclear weapons? Military might? Or the ability to influence global finance, diplomacy, and regional stability? President Hakainde Hichilema of Zambia is increasingly appearing on the same diplomatic platforms as some of the world's most powerful leaders. But is this symbolism or substance? Tonight, we ask a bold question. Is President HH entering the league of world superpowerful presidents, and if so, how? Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of InspirAfrica Official. I'm Nakash. We've had quite a week here at the studio, tracking some remarkable developments coming out of Southern Africa. And today, we bring you what might be one of the most inspiring political transformation stories of our time. Picture this. A man imprisoned in his own home, tear gas canisters thrown at his family, police officers defecating on his bed, charged with treason for a traffic incident, labeled an enemy of the state. Fast forward just 4 years. And that same man is now being celebrated by the Telegraph as one of the world's most powerful leaders of 2025, tasked by the African Union to lead continental water security initiatives, and credited with transforming what was once called an economic basket case into a model of fiscal discipline and reform. How does a president go from political prisoner to continental powerhouse in less than a decade? What kind of leadership transforms a nation that defaulted on its debt? The first in Africa during the pandemic into a country projecting 6.4% economic growth? What secrets lie behind this meteoric rise that has captured the attention of the IMF, the World Bank, China, and Western powers alike? Can one leader truly navigate the treacherous waters between East and West without losing their soul? And perhaps most intriguingly, is this the blueprint for a new kind of African leadership, one that refuses to be defined by the old colonial playbooks or the new debt traps? What does it mean when a leader who was once targeted for elimination becomes the very symbol of hope for an entire continent? These are the questions we'll explore today, as we unpack the extraordinary story of Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema, a story of perseverance, strategic brilliance, and a vision that may just be reshaping Africa's future. Factual foundation, background and timeline. The revelation of Hichilema's transformation into one of Africa's most influential leaders came to light most recently in December 2025, when the Telegraph named him among its world leaders of 2025, a recognition that stunned many who had watched Zambia's struggles over the past decade. Born on June 4, 1962, in a village in Mons district, Hakainde Hichilema, often known simply as HH or Bali, rose from humble beginnings through sheer determination and academic excellence. He earned a scholarship to the University of Zambia, graduating in 1986 with a degree in economics and business administration. He later pursued an MBA in finance and business strategy at the University of Birmingham in the United Kingdom. Before entering politics, Hichilema built a successful business career, serving as CEO of Coopers & Lybrand Zambia from 1994 to 1998, and Grant Thornton Zambia from 1998 to 2006. But it was in 2006, following the death of opposition leader Anderson Mazoka, that Hichilema's political journey truly began when he was elected president of the United Party for National Development. What followed was a remarkable test of resilience. Hichilema contested and lost 5 consecutive presidential elections in 2006, 2008, 2011, 2015, and 2016. Each defeat only seemed to strengthen his resolve. But it was the events of April 11, 2017, that would define his character and ultimately fuel his eventual triumph. On that night, police broke into Hichilema's compound to arrest him on treason charges, accusations that stemmed from his motorcade allegedly refusing to give way to then-President Edgar Lungu's convoy. What many viewed as a minor traffic offense carried the maximum penalty of death. The arrest was brutal. Police used excessive force, damaged his property, beat his workers, stole personal belongings including money and jewelry, threw tear gas inside his home, affecting his asthmatic wife and children who collapsed from inhaling the gas, and in an act of ultimate degradation, defecated on his bed. The arrest was widely condemned internationally. Protests erupted in Zambia and abroad, with human rights organizations denouncing what they saw as Lungu's increasing authoritarianism. Hichilema spent months in prison before the charges were eventually dropped, but this ordeal became his political resurrection. On August 24, 2021, Hichilema won the presidential election with a decisive 59.02% of the vote, finally defeating the man who had imprisoned him. He inherited what observers called an economic nightmare. Zambia had become the first African nation to default on debt repayments during the COVID-19 pandemic in November 2020. Public debt had exploded from just under 24% of GDP in 2014 to a staggering 141% by 2020. The chronological sequence of Hichilema's recovery plan began immediately. Within weeks of taking office in September 2021, he made his first foreign visit to Washington, meeting with officials at the White House, World Bank, and IMF, as well as the United States Institute of Peace. He declared his commitment to restore democracy, press freedom, rule of law, and to tackle the mountain of debt that was suffocating Zambia's economy. By February 2022, Zambia formally applied for debt restructuring under the G20 Common Framework. In August 2022, the IMF approved a $1.3 billion extended credit facility, a critical vote of confidence. The establishment of Zambia's official creditor committee followed, co-chaired by China and France, Zambia's two largest official creditors. The breakthrough came in June 2023, when Zambia reached an agreement with official creditors to restructure $6.3 billion in bilateral debt, rescheduling payments over 20 years with a 3-year grace period. This was followed in February 2024 by memorandums of understanding with China and India. Then, in June 2024, more than 90% of holders of Zambia's $3 billion in international bonds accepted the restructuring proposal. By December 2024, the IMF increased its extended credit facility to $1.7 billion and disbursed an additional $184 million as the fourth tranche, signaling continued confidence in Hichilema's reform agenda. Economic growth projections for 2025 were set at 5.8%, rising to 6.4% in 2026, while the mining sector was expected to record historic production and revenue levels. Then came the continental recognition. At the 38th African Union Assembly in February 2025, heads of state elevated water security to the forefront, assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation systems to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063 as the 2026 theme. Hichilema was personally tasked with presenting an implementation framework at the 39th Assembly in 2026. In May 2025, Zambia hosted PanAfCon 3, the third African Implementation and Partnership Conference on Water, further cementing Hichilema's leadership on continental issues. And finally, in December 2025, the Telegraph's recognition as one of the world leaders of 2025 marked the culmination of what can only be described as a political resurrection unprecedented in modern African history. Direct evidence, quotes and testimony. Let's hear directly from the key figures themselves, because their words paint a vivid picture of this transformation. President Hichilema, speaking at the United States Institute of Peace in September 2021, just weeks after his election, laid out his vision with clarity and conviction. As a new government, we are committed to human rights. We are committed to restoring the rule of law. And to fostering democracy. Because they've been gagged for too long, they've been attacked for too long in their course of duty. This will be a thing of the past. United States Institute of Peace. He didn't mince words about the economic challenge ahead. We've inherited a very, very challenged economy, a huge debt mountain. We have to dismantle this. Because it's taking away resources for development. United States Institute of Peace. When asked about what the international community could do to support democratic movements in Africa, Hichilema's response was direct and unflinching. Who will support us in the fight against corruption? This is where alignment to values will be durable. United States Institute of Peace. He emphasized the interconnected nature of global recovery. We know that if we do not bring COVID under control, we have no chance in hell to revive the economy. The first world will not have achieved much by vaccinating your people, and our people are not being vaccinated, because we will become perfect. United States Institute of Peace. In his opening address at PanAfCon 3 in May 2025, Hichilema's vision had expanded to continental dimensions. By the end of PanAfCon 3, we aim to finalize a draft implementation framework for the 39th AU General Assembly, setting a clear path for adoption and action across Africa. African Union. He acknowledged the scale of the challenge. 25 years ago, African leaders envisioned an Africa Water Vision 2025, promising equitable and sustainable water use for socio-economic progress, poverty alleviation, regional cooperation, and environmental stewardship. Yet, as we stand past that milestone, we face a stark reality: progress has not matched our ambitions. But his message was one of determination. Water is not just a resource. It is the lifeblood of our communities and economies. By investing in water and sanitation, we not only enhance the quality of life for millions but also build a foundation for sustainable development. The international community has taken notice. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva stated, "The Zambian authorities have been implementing an ambitious economic reform program supported by the IMF, which aims to restore fiscal and debt sustainability, create fiscal space for much-needed social spending, and strengthen economic governance and transparency." ISS African Futures. The Telegraph's assessment, which named Hichilema among the world leaders of 2025, noted that judges on their awards panel observed that President Hichilema has led a remarkable turnaround, transforming Zambia from what was once described as an economic basket case into a model of reform and discipline. Zambian Observer. The publication further noted, "In his 4 years in office, President Hichilema has demonstrated economic probity and fiscal discipline, while skillfully navigating complex geopolitical relations between Eastern and Western partners." Zambian Observer. French President Emmanuel Macron, speaking at the Paris Debt Summit in June 2023, called Zambia's debt restructuring agreement a historic achievement. African Business adding, "We remain mobilized to ensure that other countries caught in a debt trap benefit from a multilateral response." African Business. The Paris Club's co-chair, William Roos, acknowledged the difficulty of the process. "It was painful for Zambia, we fully recognize that. So we have to improve. But we delivered." Dev Discourse. Dr. Cheikh Tidiane Ndiaye, AMCO President and Minister of Hydraulics and Sanitation of Senegal, praised Hichilema's continental leadership, calling the adoption of the Africa Water Vision 2063 Africa's solemn commitment to future generations, to safeguard water as the heartbeat of prosperity, peace, and dignity, and to place it at the center of Africa's transformation. AMCO Online. Zambia's Minister for Water Development, Collins Nzovu, reaffirmed the government's commitment. Under President Hichilema's leadership, Zambia will spare no effort in mobilizing consensus, engaging with partners, and championing this agenda in the spirit of African solidarity and shared prosperity. AMCO Online. Even as Hichilema announced the debt restructuring breakthrough with China and India in February 2024, his focus remained on the people. With the deal now in place, Zambia will now need to turn to its private creditors to resolve a terrible debt mountain of more than $13 billion in external debt that Zambia stopped paying in 2020. Afronomics Law. Deeper analysis, implications and reactions. So what does Hichilema's rise really mean for Africa, and what are the broader implications of this transformation? First, let's consider the economic implications. Zambia's successful debt restructuring represents far more than just financial relief for one nation. It's being watched as a test case for the G20 Common Framework. Hichilema's work on debt restructuring, especially with the IMF and China, has restored investor confidence and allowed the country to stabilize its currency and budget deficit. African exponent: the deal is estimated to cut around $900 million from Zambia's debt while spreading future payments over a much longer timeframe. But experts note the complexity. The negotiations revealed deep tensions between Chinese and Western creditors over what constitutes comparable treatment. In November 2023, China and other bilateral creditors temporarily blocked a deal with private bondholders, arguing they were getting better terms than official creditors. This forced Zambia back to the negotiating table to find a compromise that satisfied all parties, a process that took months of delicate diplomacy. Zambia's mining sector is now seeing renewed foreign interest, and Hichilema is leveraging this to invest in green minerals like lithium and cobalt, securing Zambia's place in the global clean energy supply chain. African exponent. This strategic pivot is positioning Zambia not just as a copper producer, but as a critical player in the transition to renewable energy, a sector projected to explode in the coming decades. However, challenges remain. Zambia's reliance on copper for 70% of export earnings leaves the economy vulnerable to price swings. A 2024 drought cut crop yields by 15% and disrupted hydroelectric production, pushing inflation to 16.7% in December 2024, the highest level since November 2021. The drought was considered the worst to hit Zambia in 2 decades, and an estimated 33% of the population faced hunger between October 2024 and March 2025. But here's where Hichilema's crisis management skills shone. Rather than simply responding to emergencies, he transformed these crises into opportunities for long-term solutions. The government launched the Comprehensive Agricultural Transformation Support Program, allocated K$15.4 billion to agriculture in the 2025 budget, up from K$11.2 billion in 2023, and oversaw the signing of a $37 million deal to construct Zambia's first cholera vaccine plant, putting the country on course to eliminate the disease by 2030. From a political perspective, Hichilema's journey represents a powerful rebuke to authoritarian tendencies across Africa. His imprisonment in 2017, followed by his electoral victory in 2021 and subsequent commitment to democratic principles, offers a counter-narrative to the strongman leadership that has dominated much of the continent. He restored press freedom, ended restrictions on opposition activities, and has pledged to investigate corruption while respecting due process. Yet, not everyone is convinced. There are concerns about recent constitutional changes approved in December 2025 that some critics worry could be used to consolidate power ahead of the 2026 elections. Bloomberg characterized it as setting the stage for a turbulent run-up to next year's elections, Bloomberg raising questions about whether Hichilema will maintain his democratic commitments under electoral pressure. Geopolitically, Hichilema's greatest achievement may be his ability to navigate between East and West without alienating either side. He has maintained strong relationships with China, Zambia's largest bilateral lender, while simultaneously deepening ties with the United States and Israel. In May 2025, he spoke at the AJC Global Forum in New York, reaffirming ties with the US and Israel, and looking ahead to hosting the second Africa-Israel U.S. Agritech Summit. AJC. He welcomed the opening of the Israeli embassy in Lusaka, a move that signals Zambia's willingness to engage with diverse global partners. This balancing act is particularly significant given increasing Sino-American competition in Africa. While many African leaders feel compelled to choose sides, Hichilema has demonstrated that it's possible to maintain sovereignty and pursue national interests without becoming a pawn in great power competition. His approach of emphasizing common values such as constitutionalism, rule of law, human rights, working against vices such as corruption provides a framework for partnerships based on shared principles rather than geopolitical alignment. The regional implications are equally profound. By hosting major African Union events and being tasked with leading the continental water security agenda, Hichilema has positioned Zambia as a key player in regional governance. The Africa Water Vision 2063, which he is championing, aims to mobilize $30 billion annually for water investments in Africa by 2030, a transformative initiative that could reshape infrastructure and public health across the continent. From a leadership perspective, Hichilema embodies what some analysts are calling technocratic populism, a leader with genuine business acumen and technical expertise who nonetheless maintains strong popular support. His background as a successful CEO gives him credibility with investors and international financial institutions, while his persecution under the previous regime and his repeated electoral campaigns have built deep grassroots support. Rankings by various publications reflect this dual appeal. Business Day ranked him 5th among Africa's best-performing leaders in 2024, behind Egypt's Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Tanzania's Samia Hassan, Rwanda's Paul Kagame, and Seychelles' Wavel Ramkalawan. The publication describes his performance on the economy as promising, particularly highlighting his focus on agriculture, renewable energy, and attracting international investment. Lusaka Times. But there are skeptics who question whether these international accolades reflect genuine transformation or simply indicate that Hichilema has become a Western puppet. Social media commentators in Zambia have expressed concern that too much praise from Western institutions might indicate that Zambia is being too compliant with external demands rather than pursuing truly independent development. Economists note that while the debt restructuring is welcome, it doesn't address systemic issues. Zambia's tax-to-GDP ratio of 16.8% remains low, limiting domestic revenue mobilization. Governance issues and corruption continue to deter foreign investment, despite Hichilema's anti-corruption rhetoric. And critics point out that some clauses in the debt restructuring deals mean Zambia will make extra payments if it recovers fast, potentially pushing debt back up to levels where the IMF considers it at high risk of distress. Perhaps most controversially, Hichilema's firing of 3 constitutional court judges in 2024 raised eyebrows among governance watchdogs. While the government defended the move as necessary to ensure judicial independence and accountability, critics saw it as a troubling sign of executive overreach. The question that haunts any analysis of Hichilema's rise is whether this model is replicable elsewhere in Africa. Can other nations follow Zambia's path from default to recovery? The mixed experiences of countries like Ghana, which has also sought debt restructuring under the G20 Common Framework, suggest that while the framework exists, success depends heavily on political will, technical capacity, and perhaps most importantly, creditor cooperation. Ghana's central bank governor, Ernest Addison, speaking at a debt conference in Paris, offered a sobering assessment: the G20 framework. I do not think I want to recommend that to any country.